More importantly, how about my mom? She did okay? Woo! Is that good? Hey, Jared, it's going to come as a complete surprise to you that CPAC is a little bit of a family affair. You know something about this?
Yes, I do. And I have to say, Matt, too, we've had a hard time getting a quorum in the White House because everyone in our government seems to be at CPAC this year. So,
Well, you could have just had a cabinet meeting here and just cut out the middleman, you know?
it's true.
Yeah.
It's very true.
So we had Don Jr. backstage, we had Laura Trump. Laura and Brad were on this stage just a few moments ago. Did you guys enjoy hearing from Brad Parscale? And so, Jared, you were there. There was a genesis moment in the Trump for president effort, and you were there at the beginning of all this. I think everybody would love to hear what it was like at the very beginning when Donald Trump said, you know what, I think I'm going to do this.
Well, that was definitely one of the more interesting parts of my relationship with him. But I have to say that for the whole family, this has been an incredible journey because for us, we were living our lives. We were doing the different businesses and the different adventures that we chosen. And when, at the time, Donald Trump, now President Trump, decided to run for office, it really was an opportunity for all of us to learn a lot about the country, meet a lot of people, see what wasn't being done in the country and what was needed. And so for him, he had a strong passion about wanting to fight for the things that he felt strongly about, wanting to bring the change that he felt was needed. And throughout the campaign, it just, every day, all the attacks, every time people came at him, it only strengthened his resolve, both to keep fighting and then to win. And I'd say the same thing's happened in Washington since he's gotten here.
Oh, yeah, I'd say so. I think that's a fair statement. So you're in the real estate business, the development business in New York City and probably other places as well. You're a fairly young guy. Your father-in-law decides he's going to run for president. You're probably hoping that you could be in the bleacher seats and just watch and root him on. Instead, you get right in the middle of it. Was that your decision or his decision?
Well, it was, again, he was attacked from the day he started.
From the beginning.
And the whole family, look, he ran a family business, and he's a person who shares his thoughts, his ideas, and wants to see results happen all the time. So he asked all of us to get involved. It was myself, it was Don Jr., it was Eric, it was Ivanka, and we all did everything we could to help him. You know, we didn't necessarily, we weren't deep on a lot of the issues at the time. We were kind of doing our businesses, but it was about fighting for him and helping him. And the more that we had the chance to get involved in the different areas, we were able to help him run a very unique campaign. And one of the things that's different between this campaign and the last campaign is the last campaign he was figuring out as he went along. And one thing the president's done in Washington that he also did on campaigns is he didn't want to do it the way it had been done just because it had been done that way before. So
we're very appreciative of that, by the way.
Yes.
That's a good thing.
And I would say that a lot of the consultants and people came in who said, well, this is how you have to do it. The president said, I'm not paying you percentages to do all these things. And he basically got rid of all of them. And he figured out very pragmatic ways to run a campaign. And I think that the way the president ran the last campaign is changing the way campaigns are going to be run forever. Very data-focused, metric-driven,
right.
Not allowing consultants to get rich off of it, and doing it in a way where you're really fighting for the people as opposed to just to preserve power.
But there's a huge change, right, between a campaign, he comes down the escalator. I remember my first television interview was about Donald Trump's racism. They had the talking points, man. They were sending those out as fast as they could about how they were going to take this guy down. They've never stopped, obviously. And so all of this happens. You don't have an infrastructure. Now, fast forward, 3.5 years into his first term, he's obviously an announced candidate. How's it different?
Well, I would say that the way that you're seeing the campaign being run, again, there's no leaks, there's no drama. I would say it's high competence, low drama. Everything's very efficiently run, and I think that that's exemplary of how President Trump would run his second term in office, because just like he was figuring out how to run a campaign in the beginning, and he made a lot more good decisions than wrong decisions, what we've done this time is everything that worked, we've doubled and tripled down on. Everything that didn't work, we've swept away. But one thing I love about working with President Trump, both as a candidate but also as a president, is that he's not afraid to fail. He's not afraid to try new things. He's not afraid to take on challenges because they're too hard. And that's what you need from a leader. Thank you. And I see this all the time in Washington, where even when I got here, people said, oh, you're taking on too many things. I said, well, you're coming here, we've got a lot of problems to work on. What am I supposed to do, take on less things? I mean, it's just, and then, the president, he's not afraid to take on challenges. Most politicians say, well, if you try to do that and you fail, you'll get criticized for failure. But the president says, I'm not going to pretend like things are solved when they're not solved. And if something is a problem that needs to be addressed, I'm going to give it everything I have to try and aim for incredible goals. And I think that's what we want from the president.
So let's switch to the policy agenda. The president made more clear promises in 2016. He really outlined in every conceivable area, certainly that matters to conservatives, but just to Americans generally, what he would do. The most refreshing thing is, I think it's strange that he actually intended to do them. I actually don't think he was telling us at CPAC what we wanted to hear. I think he had the intention of actually doing them, and which is novel and appreciated. And so on the policy agenda, the economy, just rolling, jobs, which is kind of what I look at. I look at, like, are people happy? Is consumer confidence up? And do people feel like they have a good job? Can we keep this rolling?
I think there's definitely tremendous potential to do it. Look, I think the president's ideology, as I see it, is pragmatism. And what I find every day is, if you're dogmatic about things one way or the other, and I feel like we definitely work with people who are ideologues, and then we have a lot more pragmatists in the administration, but the president's trying just to solve problems. And what I find is if you bring him a better idea, he's willing to change his mind. And I think that's a strength, not a weakness, that he's a flexible thinker, he's a creative thinker, and he's somebody who's been able to achieve results. And if you look at America's economy, the reason why I'm very bullish about where we're going to be long-term is we have a very good unemployment right now. We've deregulated a lot of the country. You need regulations, but the country was overregulated. Before the president was put in office, the previous year, companies spent 6 million man-hours complying with new regulations. We've had 3 years in a row where we've had a net decrease in the cost of regulation for the country. The president's lowered personal taxes for the middle income, and he's also lowered corporate taxes. You don't hear about inversions on the campaign. We're hearing about inversions. The president believes that you know how to spend your money better than the government does, and he's very focused on making sure the consumers see it. The president unleashed American energy. A lot of that was being constrained, but the fact that we have abundance of energy allows us.
So let me get this straight. The president does not want to ban fracking?
No, he's.
Okay, good.
Look, by the way, natural gas is cleaner than the energy that it's replacing around the world. And also, if you look at the gas prices that we have in this country, they're lower today because of President Trump's energy policies. And which means higher gas prices is a tax for the consumer. And if you put yourself in a position where now we're a net exporter of energy, it allows us to be more safe as a country as well. So that's been great. And the thing that I think will start kicking in is the trade deals. So, the president obviously was willing to take on these trade deals. Somebody said to me that it was very brave of him to take these on in the first term because all of the cost of the fights on trade he paid for in this term, but the long-term benefits of it are ones that he won't feel before his reelection. I mean, these are things that will benefit our country for the long term, whether it's the China deal, the Canada deal, the Mexico deal, the Japan deal, the South Korea deal. These are all deals that are going to bring back jobs to America and make our country much stronger for the long term. And again, I've heard a lot of politicians talk about it, but I don't think I could see any politicians who would have been able to figure out how to make deals quite like this president was able to do it.
So, amen. So on the USMCA deal, which even eventually Speaker Pelosi had to relent and let the vote occur in the House of Representatives and widely popular around the country, I will tell you, almost every person I thought was smart told me, well, you can't renegotiate. Nice idea, Trump people, but you're not going to be able to renegotiate NAFTA. It is what it is. It's too tough to get it passed. How are you going to get Canada there? How are you going to start with Mexico? That was an amazing achievement.
Yeah, well, look, it took a lot of twists and turns. And again, I give Ambassador Lighthizer a lot of credit for his leadership and obviously the president for setting the stage for how we can do it. But what we were able to do is create a deal that got over 80, I think it was 89 votes in the Senate. So we were able to get a bipartisan deal because President Trump's trade policy has been different than previous trade policies. He believes that a lot of the globalization that's occurred has had benefits, but the benefits have been distributed, but the costs have been very concentrated. And that's led to a lot of our factories leaving, which has hollowed out communities, which has led to a lot of problems. And so what the president's tried to do is bring back a lot of the manufacturing jobs to this country. And again, we're seeing now with the virus, but this really shows that the two core tenets of what the president was pushing early on, which is we need a strong domestic manufacturing base here. We should be making stuff here in America.
That's right.
Is very important. And the second one is that you need to control your borders so that you know who's coming in and out of your country, and you need to make sure that you're doing it in a way that's able to keep your citizens safe, who are American citizens.
You can't, Jared, this is going to come as a complete surprise to you, but you're not allowed to go through those doors unless you have a ticket. Sounds to me like you're saying that's kind of how we should run the country.
Well, I think the president has a, the president's had a very strong point of view, and I know that this group here probably cares about the border security issue, and so I can tell you that as of today, we're at 130 miles on the wall that's been built, and by the end of the year, we are on track to have over 400 miles. Doing construction, what you should know is the hard part in construction is really making sure that you have the plans, acquire the land, you have the funding, all the design. But we basically have finished most of the contracting, and what we're seeing is now we're doing about 5 miles a week, and we hope in about 2 months we'll be over 7 miles a week. And so we're seeing it go up. And what's happened is that as the wall has gone up in these areas, it frees up the border agents to be able to do more of their job. Drug interdictions have gone up tremendously. Border crossings have gone down. And I would say that the president and Chad Wolf's doing a great job, Mark Morgan, Ken Cuccinelli. The team in Homeland Security is really doing a great job now of securing the border. And I think it's going to get better and better as the wall continues to go up. And I always joke with the president that I said only Donald Trump can make the notion of a wall something that's controversial. So it's a very unique talent.
Well, Jared, I've learned from him. There's a wall and a wheel, and they're like the greatest inventions ever. You can't outdo them.
Yes. He hasn't made the wheel controversial yet,
He could.
But I would imagine if he starts campaigning on the wheel, it'll be the Democrats will be allergic to wheels, and they'll try to ban wheels from America. So
impeach the wheel.
I have to tell you, this is a different business than what we were in before. But but once you figure out the rhythm of it, you can make it work pretty well.
I thought he actually was going to make the wheel controversial with that whole Indianapolis 500 thing. That was he was risking it. So let's face it, what the goal is of everybody who supports Donald Trump is to get him 4 more years, right?
Yeah.
But the second terms of Republican presidents are usually disastrous, right? Campaigns are so exhausting, and it seems like they get over the finish line, and if they get that second term, it just falls apart immediately. I have a feeling, just like everything else with Donald Trump that's been unconventional, you guys are ready for the policy challenges in a second 4 years. What else could they throw at you?
Well, I think that this president's definitely different. I mean, his energy is unlimited. We're all trying to keep up with him all the time. And because, look, he had a great life. He gave it up.
He spoke for 2.5 hours last year.
It was.
And he didn't have to take a bathroom break. He stood up there the whole time.
It was an amazing speech. But I would say with him is that, again, he ran for president because he genuinely wanted to see problems solved. And what he's done is he's solved a lot of problems so far, but he's getting better and better at the job. The team around him is getting better and better. And I think the goal that he'll have for the second term is to do twice as much as he did in the first term, not to do less. And what I would say is that now the president really is surrounded by a phenomenal group of people. You just heard from Secretary Pompeo. I think you've heard from almost everybody at this point. But he's got an amazing cabinet. He's got an amazing staff. And everyone knows what their job is. But he's running it like a CEO, where he's basically saying, we have great people who are running the different goals. We agree on what we want to accomplish. He gives them latitude on how to get there, but he manages them very aggressively to try to accomplish it. So I think this campaign, what I'm seeing now out in the field, and I know Brad spoke earlier, is that the energy for this president is greater than it's ever been. Most presidents historically, they come in, they have a honeymoon period, then the realities of Washington kick in. This president came in and was under siege from day one, never had a honeymoon period. One thing I admire a lot of things, but he didn't adapt to Washington. He's forcing Washington to adapt to him, which is good. And thank you. Thank you. And what
I think they'd like you to keep doing that.
No, but it's really true. Again, I saw all the temptations early and all the fights and everything, but the president stuck to his North Star, and again, all the things he promised, he said, I'm going to get them done. And then he didn't promise them because he was trying to win political points. He was doing what he thought was right. And whereas I'd say a lot of politicians follow the polls, he actually brings the polls to his positions, and he can really change polls. But what I've seen with just his numbers, when the president was elected, his net favorability on the RCP average was 37.5% on election day. Now it's up over 46%. So what we've seen is constantly, the more the president's been attacked, the more people realize what he's fighting for, and they see that he's been resolved. They love that he's fighting for them. When they see Washington fighting against him, most people don't like Washington, so they like the fact that he's fighting against Washington. And what we've seen is he's just grown and grown and grown. And I think what's going to be exciting about this campaign is that the 3 rules of politics are tell people what you're going to do it, and then tell them you did it. We've done the first 2, and then the campaign is really going to be about telling people what he's done. And I don't think the country really has a full appreciation for the full extent of all the successes and the policy wins, and then also what he's going to do with the second term. And it's going to be a very, very exciting next couple of months as he gets the opportunity to do that.
I agree. The thing I hear, Mercy and I are on the road a lot, and the thing I hear from people who don't necessarily own a MAGA hat, they're curious about politics. I think more Americans feel optimistic and are curious about what's happening. I think more Americans are open to the president and his agenda than ever before. But what you hear over and over again is, I don't think we're getting the real story.
Yeah.
And the real story is pretty magnificent. And you can tell because the American people actually do feel more confident. You have a lot to do with that. Obviously, you're there being loyal to the president, which we appreciate, but we appreciate everything you're doing. I want to end this conversation with a real favor that I need, which is I have this interview coming up with
We already allowed you to get Mercy back.
Yes, that's true. She's back home. Thank you for that, by the way. That was nice.
We miss
She's
her.
not back home. She's heckling Jared. This is going to start going very badly. The favor I need is I'm interviewing this person who's really smart and everything else. Her name is Ivanka.
Yes.
And is that going to go okay? Do you have any tips?
It's not easy to keep it. I'll tell you. But I have to say again, just Ivanka, her brothers, her father, everything they do.
Amazing. Yeah.
They really are an amazing family. And what they do is they're doing all this with so much heart. And a lot of them, they've given up a lot to do this, which I admire. But they're doing it because they really love this country and they believe in this country. And what we see now is that the potential of this country for what we can accomplish if we're able to keep getting the reforms done that we want to get done and even do more, is that the potential for this country is really unlimited. And I think the work that Ivanka's done on workforce, in government, I find that you only get credit when you solve a problem, when people really know about it. But when you're in business, what you try to do is solve problems before they start, and then what you try to do is make different decisions to create opportunities in the future. And the work that Ivanka's done here domestically by investing in the workforce and getting the private sector to really provide solutions to help people get better jobs and training is part of how our country will be competitive for the long term and also suffer less from the fact that we are going through a major industrial revolution and things are changing. So the work she's done is tremendous, and I couldn't be prouder of her. So.
Well, CPAC, are we honored to have Jared Kushner here with us?
Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you to all of you. Thank you.
It's fun.